that day will come someday.
We need to pick a band that like one of us just hates or hates some part of.
That's
I don't know.
Be
You guys have
difficult
been
for us.
You guys have been. Do you guys have like formative bands for either of you that the other one just deeply despises?
I don't think so. Kyle, do you hate Sufjan Stevens?
I'm indifferent.
Okay, well then,
But no,
no,
there's
I
no
guess
hate.
not.
No. Maybe some of like there's definitely some stuff like in like high school, like some of like that early what they were calling emo, but totally wasn't emo. Stuff that you were maybe
sure.
listening to, like that I wasn't.
Yeah,
digging.
I mean that's fair.
I think the kids call it pop punk now.
It's mostly called pop punk now. Yeah, I mean I know you don't like Fall Out Boy, so like, but I wouldn't call Fall Out Boy a formative band for me. I got into them more in adulthood, which is a weird backwards way to get into that band.
I saw them in a church basement and with Rise Against.
And
I left to get Subway while Fall Out Boy played. And it was the day they got signed to like Fueled by Ramen or something. They were like talking about it and they were like, yeah, whatever.
So this is what, 2002 or something?
Something like that, yeah. It was the first show Rise Against played after they got back from recording RPM.
Okay.
Like I think they were fresh like from coming back from Colorado.
That's awesome.
This was also like peak Fall Out Boy being a live band that tried too hard to be a fun to see live band and maybe didn't care very much about how they sounded.
Couldn't tell you. I left.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music through the lens of our favorite artists' discographies. I'm Matt Kistler.
And I'm Troy Sennett.
And today we are doing another palate cleanser episode. We're cleansing our palates a little less than usual on this one. We just got off of our series on Rise Against, which if you're just joining us, you should probably go listen to. It would be wild to me if anybody listening to this episode doesn't also kind of like Rise Against. But whatever, it's fine. Today we're going to be talking about Tim McIlrath's other band, one of several other bands, but this is the big one in my mind. We're going to be talking about The Killing Tree and their sole full-length The Romance of Helen, Trent, as well as an EP and a set of demos that's also kind of an EP, and then one last song after that. This is a pretty special episode, though, because we're joined by our first guest ever. We are joined by my friend for a very, very long time now, and a person that I've mentioned several times on the Rise Against series, Kyle Wilnewic.
Hello.
Kyle's a good buddy of mine. I've known him since elementary school. He got me into both Rise Against and The Killing Tree way back in the day. Is, I think, the only person I know that is more into this album than me. And that includes Troy, as we'll get to a little later in this episode. Just a little bit of preamble before we get too deep into it. Personnel on this album, pretty exciting for Chicago people, I imagine. We've got Tim on vocals. We'll come back to pseudonyms in a second here. We've got Todd Money on guitar, who you'll remember from Revolutions Per Minute, played guitar on that album for Rise Against. We've got Jeff Rue on bass. And then we've got Tim Remus on drums, who you may also know from formerly being in Baxter before this, but also from 2019 on. If y'all have listened to anything Cloakroom has done in that time, he is also drumming for them now, which is pretty sick.
I just listened to the new Cloakroom album. I've not ever really been into that band before, and I think it's really good.
It's so good. Obviously, we do recommendations later in the podcast, but everybody should go listen to that album. It's really cool. But yeah, pretty minimal production crew on this one. This was engineered and mixed by Matt Allison. This is our first Matt Allison album, which is kind of shocking to me, at Atlas here in Chicago. There was a vinyl remaster done later on by Alan Duché, which we'll talk a little bit about. I probably won't have a lot to say about it because I've only listened to it a couple of times. The original CD version is pretty canon for me. But I don't think there was, Troy, I might have just missed something. Was there a mastering credit on this album at all?
No, I think it was just not the original version. Was probably just mastered straight out of the mixed sessions by Matt Allison, I assume.
Yeah, and all the credits say is engineered and mixed by Matt. But yeah, I guess just to start off, Kyle, since you were the first one of us to encounter this album, do you remember kind of how you came across this, aside from or was it mostly just the Rise Against connection?
Yeah, I think it was mostly just the Rise Against connection. I couldn't tell you how I ended up stumbling upon this, but it was kind of right as this album, The Romance of Helen Trent, came out. Luckily, they were still a band when I found out about them, and then I think they broke up shortly after, and I never got to see them.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask if you had ever gotten to see them, but apparently not.
Yeah, nope. There was one chance, and I think it ended up being their like breakup show, and it was like, at that point in time, my life was like, I'd see flyers for a show and be like, oh, I gotta remember that, and it would always be like, hey, I wonder when that show was. Oh, that was yesterday. Dang it. And it happened with the Killing Tree. I wanted to see the Locust a bunch in Chicago. It happened like 3 times where, like, it was like literally the day after is when I remembered to like check.
The Locust was kind of a cursed band for us in that regard, because that happened to me a lot too.
It was probably just both of our faults.
Were you guys like, or Kyle especially, were you more into the heavier side of things? The more was Rise Against a less punk band than you typically were listening to, so this was more up your alley?
Maybe I was definitely at that point in time I was more into like hardcore. I was listening to like a lot of Black Flag, Minor Threat, Germs, things like that. But then getting into Rise Against probably in like freshman year or like maybe even 8th grade, they just stuck around as they changed.
Yeah, because to me, like, this album feels a little more, I don't know, Rise Against is so, like, pop is the wrong word, but they're, like, angling towards that a little bit more, even on Revolutions Per Minute. Like, that album is so catchy to me that, like, and I don't hear a lot of that in this Killing Tree stuff. To be honest, I find this album kind of hard to get into. On paper, it sounds like something I should love. Like, I'm a big fan of Tim as a vocalist. I'm a big fan of his guitarist from my favorite Rise Against album. I like a smattering of metalcore here and there. This album does not work for me. I think it is like any 30-second snippet of it I probably think is really cool, but when it's 10 6-minute songs in a row, I tap out, about halfway through, I think, and I'm just like, this is a little too much for me.
That's understandable.
Yeah, but like, I mean, try to sell it to me. What do you guys love about it?
So for me, at least, this sits in a pretty sweet spot for me as a person who's into kind of the brand of punk that Rise Against was doing, the more hardcore side of things, and specifically the more screamo side of things. Like, the more screamo moments on this remind me of some of my favorite screamo bands, like your Page 99s, your Envies, your Seishas. There's even some Thursday in bits of this, honestly.
Yeah, there is.
But I think what draws me to this album specifically is that and I've talked to you about this before, Troy. My favorite like kind of metalcore is the like really human sounding metalcore, and this is like almost that taken to an extreme. Like the Bury Me at Makeout Creek sessions are like borderline sloppy at times. But like there's parts of this album where I'm like, oh yeah, like, or I mean, not even parts of this album. This whole album, I'm like, oh, I can tell real people played this. Like, this was people in a room playing music together. And it just like, it kind of hits a lot of notes for me of things I like from all of those genres. Like, one of my favorite metalcore albums is The Opposite of December, and that's an album that, like, while it's tight, it still sounds really human. Like, listening closely to that album, I'm like, oh, I heard a mistake in the drums there. That's weird, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, I don't know. I think it just works for me in that regard, because it just kind of sits at this weird intersection of a bunch of genres that I really love. But what about you, Kyle? What do you think holistically makes this work for you?
It's definitely a vibes album, as you said before. Just the way everything comes together, it makes me feel. It's funny, like bringing up metalcore. Like outside of this album, which people call metalcore, I wouldn't consider myself a fan of metalcore. I like hardcore and things that I think are hardcore that maybe aren't, like this, I guess.
It's subjective. I get it.
It's so subjective.
Well, it really does sit at an intersection, because like I was trying to think about like where a lot of the metalcore bands that I did get into later on after this, because I'm a few years younger than you guys. I was like, what were they doing at this time? I was like, is there a world where maybe RPM isn't a big deal and this Killing Tree is the band that these guys focus on instead? And do they end up being kind of like Under Oath, or do they end up being Norma Jean? And like I don't think so, because I don't think I think those bands were doing something a little bit different, and I think that like I don't know, like Botch and Poison the Well and Converge are much heavier, and the sort of Christian metalcore thing was, one, Christian, and two, a lot more melodic. So this band is like almost unclassifiable to me, but you're right that they're not quite metalcore in the same way that some of those other bands are, and I can see why they stand out to you even if you're not like a big metalcore fan.
Kyle, do you remember how people would classify Fat Sally as Memo? Metal, but also emo.
Yeah, I do.
That's kind of where I feel like this is, even though that's not a real term, and I think we all just made it up to maybe make fun of Zach a little bit.
Probably.
Just kidding. Fat Sally.
Shout out to Fat Sally.
Shout out to Fat Sally. And also Chicken Happen, Zach's current band, who is very good.
Oh, they're good. Okay, so I was going to say, who is Fat Sally, but I've played with Chicken Happen before. Yeah,
Chicken Happen rules. Big shout outs to the Jelmstead family in general, honestly. But yeah, I think that's metalcore is kind of a misnomer in this case. I think it feels like the closest brand of metal, because like clearly this is very influenced by metal as like kind of a holistic genre. We don't get into like the weird southern rock thing that Rise Against does on a couple of their albums, but like you can see them kind of like exploring more of that side. And like it probably bears mentioning that like this band kind of comes more or less straight out of Arma Angelus no longer being a thing, alongside Rise Against becoming a thing. And that band is not a band I'm as into, but like feels like it's a little more adjacent than say Rise Against is.
It's funny that we've never talked about Arma Angelus on this Rise Against series, because I remember like finding out that band existed and be like, oh, there was a band with the singer of Rise Against, and Pete Wentz was in it, and I was just like, this must be the Holy Grail. This must be the best band that has ever existed. I listened to it and it wasn't. Not at all.
Yeah, it's mostly fine, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a band that really made an impression on me. Like something I like to turn back to on occasion, but like it doesn't stick with me the way that this album does.
Better in theory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I think on the whole, like yeah, this I just really vibe with this album, and like I know part of that is nostalgia. But like I sat down and listened to it again today, and like occasionally the lyrics get into like territory of like, man, I don't know about this, but like as I've kind of like sat with it more like closely for these last couple of listens, I feel like I've kind of developed an understanding of like what the band is actually going for here. Especially because, we'll talk a little more about it later, but I think it's probably worth mentioning up top. A lot of this album involves this kind of found audio diary that I'm going to look up the name real quick here because I do have the CD right in front of me. That Davey from Found Magazine, who was, I guess, Tim's roommate at the time, found while searching for stuff to put in the magazine. And it's just this, like, kind of audio diary of this young woman who's dealing with a lot of inner turmoil. And, like, I kind of feel like the kind of whole concept of the band is, like, how do we deal with these huge emotions we feel, even though, like, they may from the outside seem irrational? Like, how do we describe what that feels like inside without it just like kind of falling back onto cliches about, about depression, about anxiety, et cetera, and that's like subject matter that Rise Against breached. And I don't want to compare this band too much to Rise Against because they're far from the same, but they do have the same lyricist and vocalist, so it's kind of hard not to draw comparisons at certain points. But I think kind of viewing it through that lens, instead of like kind of taking it at more face value, where like there's a lot of lyrics about like cutting people up and killing people, like, or at least alluding to that. Not cutting people up, but like, self-harm and stuff like that. But
that's the time. Like, every band
definitely.
in this genre was writing stuff like that at the time, and some of it was more obviously for shock value, and some of it was more like, gruesome to explore some other idea or emotion or whatever. But yeah, I think hardly any of those lyrics age well, but I don't know, they don't offend me in the sense that I understand why. Like, that's just what everyone was doing at the time.
Totally. I feel like what I'm getting out of this album at this point is that it's not going for shock value. It's not meant to be taken at like kind of like face value. There are two characters. One is a bad person. One is a good person. Like, it seems like this is more of a like, here's what it's like inside my brain as a person who is dealing with these things. And like, that might be me overanalyzing it a little bit, but it kind of feels like it fits the narrative of most of what their output ended up being. And especially like the thing that I meant to say earlier was they received these kind of tapes and they were like, oh, this really aligns with what we're going for. And like the kind of snippets that they chose for this album all just kind of like hint at like things in this person's life are going wrong, and it's like kind of vague, but also, feels like it's trying to put into words a feeling that is way more complicated than what words can actually convey. And I feel like the band's like main effort here is to try to convey that a little better than what the actual audio diaries themselves do. But again, might just be retconning something onto it that doesn't actually exist.
No, I like that. I think that's a good interpretation of it. I honestly wanted more of the audio diary stuff. I think that's kind of my favorite element of the album.
So they recently dug those up. Kyle, do you know if they ended up like doing anything with that, or did they just make that post, or did Tim just make that post where he was like, "Yeah, we found this," and that was it?
No, they didn't. They found her.
Oh, they found her.
Yeah.
Oh.
By the way, I do remember you talked about that on your one of your Thursday shows, I think. I remember
maybe,
listening.
yeah.
You mentioned it.
Okay. Damn.
Anyway,
okay.
Just telling you that I'm a listener.
I've scrambled things in my brain apparently over the course of many, many episodes.
Yeah, I was listening to, I couldn't tell you what podcast it was. I don't remember. Tim was on it, obviously, and he didn't say The Killing Tree, but he mentioned like my old band, something, we found this person, she's doing okay.
That's good.
Or something like that.
I
yeah.
love that.
Super random.
Yeah, for real. That's wild. But yeah, that's kind of the overview. Do we want to go ahead and dive in here, or does anybody have anything else they want to touch on before we get into that?
Yeah, let's talk about the songs.
Cool. Troy, I should have asked you this before we started, but do we want to start chronologically, or do we want to just talk about Bury Me at Makeout Creek after the album?
Let's just very briefly talk about Bury Me at Makeout Creek, because it's a demo EP. It is, I think, a rough recording.
It definitely
does not
is.
sound very good. And so 2 of these songs end up on the album, 2 of them don't. Is that right?
Yeah. Violets Are Blue and Replace My Heart end up on the album. The Bronze and Pillow Talk do not.
We don't have to go through every one of these songs, but I mean, as a demo, I think it's cool that it exists. But like I said, it's not a a good recording by any means.
Oh, man.
What's that?
Oh, sorry. No, I got in trouble. I think Neil Hennessy recorded some of this stuff, and I was talking to him. He was playing with Sparta, and I was doing sound at a venue here, and he was packing up, and I was talking about Chicago bands and Killing Tree, and he mentioned working. He's the original drummer, and he recorded 1 or 2 of the EPs or whatever, and I was like, oh, is it this one, the one that like doesn't sound that good? And he was like,
my
yep.
God.
And I was like, I'm sorry. He's like, no, it's okay. You're right.
He knows. He's aware.
So Neil, if you're out there, I'm sorry.
I kind of did that to Keith Lieutenant from Empire once when I was like, man, I love this like EP, but like, man, my vinyl sounds terrible. And my friend Pat was just like, why would you tell him that?
I don't think I've accidentally ever told a band I like that something they made sucked. So I feel pretty good right now.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty objectively like it's not a great sounding EP.
No.
It more just struck me like right from the beginning, like every one of these songs is like a epic journey to go on. They're long, there's lots of parts, and it's what the band is doesn't really change from the demo to the album.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do I feel like Pillow Talk is like maybe not a great song, and I can see why it didn't make the album, and I feel like they did a better version of kind of what they were going for there ultimately on The Romance of Helen, Trent. I kind of like the Bronze. I would maybe have liked to hear a better version of that, but I'm glad we got Violets Are Blue and Replace My Heart. Like the better recording quality obviously serves those songs well, but there were definitely some production decisions that were not made on Replace My Heart specifically here that got made on the album that like really kind of upped the effectiveness of that song.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say it's definitely a shame that the EPs are the only thing that you can like really listen to if you're a streamer.
Yeah. Well, like we should talk about this briefly.
You have to like search out for The Romance of Helen Trent on
Yeah.
Bandcamp or
DuPage
YouTube.
County Hardcore.
Yep.
The DuPage County Hardcore Bandcamp is whoever runs that is a hero.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah, this album, I don't know that I mentioned the label up top, but this was released on One Day Savior, a label that you've probably never heard of, and I also haven't heard of it outside of this album, and nobody has any idea who owns the rights to it right now is kind of the short version of what I'm going for here, which is why it's not on streaming services, because nobody knows if they are allowed to do that. Except for the DuPage County hardcore folks who it'll get taken down someday, maybe off Bandcamp. Maybe it will never get taken down off Bandcamp. Who can say?
I'll say One Day Savior is a cool label. I really liked a lot of bands that were on there. They had Paulson. They did some Boys Night Out stuff.
That's right.
Juliana Theory. A lot of bands that went on to do bigger stuff went through One Day Savior.
Okay, nice. That's cool. I hadn't dove very hard into their back catalog, but I do remember that like Boys Night Out put out some stuff on there. That's dope.
They got bought by someone.
That's why they're not going to post anything on streamers.
Yeah.
Wonder how much it would cost to buy the rights off whoever owns it right now.
Well, that's the problem is no one knows.
Yeah, no, exactly. Nobody knows. So,
but the deal is, even if they did own the rights and they're not doing it, they're not making any money. Why not give it to someone else? Who cares?
Yeah, you'd think. You'd absolutely think.
The music business doesn't make any sense.
No. The music business does not make any sense. But yeah, let's go ahead and cut over to the album then. Yeah, if you want to listen to this album and you haven't already, search out the DuPage County Hardcore Bandcamp page, or find the remastered version on Think Fast Records Bandcamp page. It was remastered for the vinyl reissue in 2018, which apparently only one member of the band really was involved in at all, which I find kind of interesting. But
which member?
I think it was Jeff.
The one who wasn't busy being in another band.
Right, yeah, exactly. But yeah, this album starts off with Prelude to Pain. Honestly, I think a rip-roaring opener. We get literally right out the gate just 4 like really, really heavy ride cymbal bell hits, and then just some crushing riffage. This song also notably features maybe one of my favorite Killing Tree lines that makes absolutely no sense in the context of the song or otherwise. It's $8 haircut, fuck you.
Hell yeah.
I was going to ask if either of you knew what that meant.
Not even a little bit.
I liked it as a gang vocal.
Yeah. I have no idea. Kyle, do you remember if we ever heard anything about this? Because I'm pretty sure it's just kind of a funny thing that's in the middle of the song.
I want to say I've seen like $8 Haircut as like maybe that was a band or something. I'm not sure.
Damn. I hope this isn't no, it could be fine if it's band beef. It would make a little more sense than actually like hating on somebody who gave you an $8 haircut.
Yeah, I might be wrong.
What I do like about the I like a lot of things about this song actually. I think the until the lion learns to write, the hunter will be glorified is a pretty good lyric. I think that I like how sort of just like straightforward the breakdown in this song is. It reminded me like kind of the most that I was reminded of something like Norma Jean. Yeah, and I just wish that the flip the switch thing just goes on and on and on, and that's where it kind of starts to lose me. But other than that, I think it's a pretty good opener.
Yeah, the flip the switch thing mostly works for me, and I think that's just because the instrumental below it is kind of changing itself up about halfway through. But I understand where you're coming from on that one.
Maybe it's just meant to make you uncomfortable by going on so long.
Probably.
I was talking to Blake of Like What You Like fame earlier today about the incredibly long intro for I Will Possess Your Heart and how that makes people uncomfortable.
See, I like that, though.
I love that
know.
intro.
I like it too. I actually he did a ranking of all the songs on that album, and I was like, wait, how do you feel about the radio edit version of that song? He was like, it's totally necessary. You can't just release an 8-minute long single, which is kind of true. You can. U.S. Girls just put out an 11.5-minute single. Like it's.
Ooh, I gotta hear that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. U.S. Girls, good band, turns out. But sorry, we shouldn't keep talking about other bands. Yeah, I don't know. This song has a fucking blast beat in the middle of it that I love. We also I should point out it doesn't actually open with the bell hits. It opens with a snippet from that audio diary that we already mentioned, and then also the opening of a radio play called "The Romance of Helen Trent," which I think on Genius is referred to as a TV show. I'm pretty sure it was a radio play, but citation needed on that. But yeah.
I mean, it's like a soap opera, right? Like that's which is just another thing that they found all this kind of sort of synchronicity is such a not the word I'm looking for, but the sort of similar themes between the diaries that they found and this soap opera and then what they were writing about.
Totally. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a really strong opener, honestly.
I agree.
Neat. All right. We're going to move on then to Them's Fighting Words, the second track on this album. My like biggest note on this is that this song made me remember that this song or this whole album is the drums are mixed from audience perspective and the toms are hard panned, and I hate that so much. And that's a me thing. In fairness to everybody else involved, but I can't stand that as a drummer. I want everything to be from drummer perspective, and that's just on me. That's not on anybody else. I will say that I discovered, I think it was last week, I have this poetry and prose book called Revolution on Canvas, and I was like, I'm pretty sure Tim is in this one, and I'm pretty sure the lyrics are just the poem that was submitted is just Rise Against lyrics, and it's not. It's Killing Tree lyrics, and it's for this song, which I find very, very funny to be like the thing that represents him in this relatively thick collection.
Well, that way less people know he was cheating and just using something he'd already written.
This happens many, many times in this book. I truly don't know what the like goal of this collection is, but anyway, yeah, Troy, what did you think about this one?
This is the song on the album that most sounds like Thursday to me. There's the on and on and on thing in the chorus. Every time I heard it, I was like, ooh, I can see why those two bands became friends.
Yes.
it also has the moment on this album that's the most Rise Against-y, which is that is a third verse or bridge or whatever it is. The We Fall Asleep at the Color of the Sunrise, that section. This might be my favorite song on the album because it has all these echoes of the other bands that are associated with, or kind of in the same scene that I like a lot more. I think this is a pretty good jam.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring up the Thursday comparison. I guess it's not funny because it makes sense. But one of my things that I kind of caught this time listening to it in the context of having done the Thursday series is there's bits of the song where the vocals kind of slip out of time with the instrumental, and occasionally like when there's like main vocals and background vocals, they're kind of slipping out of time with each other. And like that was a thing that Thursday did like non-infrequently, really effectively over the course of their career, and I think it really works on this song too. I also do find it interesting that like this is I like that this is your favorite song, and it's also a sub 5 minute verse chorus bridge verse outro song.
I guess it is.
Yeah. What do you think about this one, Kyle?
It's definitely in one of my top 5 on the album. But what are there, like 9 songs, so it's not too hard to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to breach the top 5, but it's I would say it's definitely up there for me too.
Yeah, and I think might be the first time in my life where I heard the phrase "them's fightin' words."
Yeah, honestly, same.
Not being from the South, not really something I came across too often in suburban Chicago.
I don't imagine that happens much in the South these days, but I don't know, maybe it does. I should ask friends who have moved there.
Feels more like a Wild West thing than a South thing to me.
Yeah, that's probably true. Like a Clint Eastwood movie type thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I consider like what's Texas is the Wild West. That's also the South to me.
That's
so
true.
That's my bad.
That's where
I'm lumping them together.
That's where the Venn diagram overlaps.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else on this one, but I like quality track, honestly. I like this one a lot. I would say this album's going really well so far, personally, for me, but that's easy for me to say. Yeah, so next we have Switchblade Architect, which I will say up front is my favorite song on this record. But I'm not sure I can quite describe why it's my favorite. But I do really love the intro riff. That's like kind of really doing a good job of tension building. And then it just like does the jump scare moment where it actually goes into the song. I've always kind of loved that move, even though it like is very, very jarring. But yeah, I do have like kind of a core memory tied to this song too. I did this kind of like summer internship-ish program at my school the summer after my freshman year, and I was not partying or anything at the time, and a lot of my friends were. So like one day I was in my dorm playing along to this song on my guitar, and somebody knocked on my door, and it was these two girls that I'd never seen before that clearly didn't go to the school, had probably like come over from like, I don't know, from one of the neighborhoods around in Lake Forest. And they were like, "Is this where the party's at?" And I just said, I don't think I even said anything. I think I just pointed upstairs. I was like, what about me playing a fucking metalcore song alone in my room, aside from it being loud, made you think that this was where the party was at? Yeah, anyway. Wild times for me right after
That's
my
really
freshman
funny.
year of college. It was so stupid.
So are you? You said you weren't partying much then. Are you implying that like now you're partying
I did
a lot?
later. Not now. No, I'm 37 fucking years old. I don't party very much anymore. But I did later in college. Like I was not drinking. Definitely wasn't like. I mean. There were people doing coke at that party, I'm sure of it. Which, to be clear, Mom and Dad, I know you're listening to this one. I've never done coke, and I do mean that. Anyway.
Just zero sugar.
Yeah, just... It's true. I have 2 empty bottles of Coke Zero sitting right next to me right now. Oh, it's fine. Anyway, just to highlight a couple more things on the song that I really like. I love the guitar solo on this song. It's really simple, but I think it really works. The one bit of criticism that I think I would ever levy against it is that I do think it would be a more interesting ending to just have like the riff that happens after the last like time they yell switchblade. Like, just have that end it. Like, don't tack on another chorus. Like, it didn't really need to be there. But otherwise, solid song for me.
Yeah, I agree with that bit about the point about the ending. I think that would be a more effective end. This is the song where I was like, oh, these has some of those weirdly violent lyrics on it. That they're just weird to look back on. I don't think it's like, I'm not like passing judgment on it too much. I do like a lot of the clean guitar stuff in this, and it does have a little bit of that like just got my first delay pedal energy, which I always actually kind of like. Like some of those, even a simple like delay guitar line can be pretty cool. But yeah, I like it.
I should point out, notably, this song was covered by Chicago's own Still Alive at one point for a comp that I can't remember the name of right now.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, thanks, Dan
That's a good
Alfonsi.
cover,
We
yeah.
love you. Yeah. What you got any thoughts on this, Kyle, aside from what's already been said?
Not really, and you're gonna find that a lot.
Yeah, again, turns out I feel like you and I feel pretty much the same about the Killing Tree.
Yeah, I
but
definitely would say like maybe if there was a single from this album, that probably would have been it.
Yeah, that tracks, honestly.
I think I agree too.
Yeah, but yeah, to the point of the like kind of violent lyrics, like I guess what do you expect from a song called Switchblade Architect? But
Right. I mean, it's that kind of like, I mean, again, this is an entire genre made almost 100% by like, men in the ages of like, 16 to 22. Like I'm not expecting like the world from it, even though again, at the same time, Tim is like writing some of my favorite lyrics ever and Rise Against. So I don't know. He's exploring something different here.
yeah, fair. All right, next up we've got Replace My Heart, which has another kind of sudden jump from a quiet intro in line with the last track. Kyle, I remember back in the day when we would talk about this band, we would often just refer to Tim singing as straight up bad. And I think this is maybe one of the most exemplary songs of that. Like it's bad, but in an endearing way. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like in the I guess in the emo way, I guess is mostly what I would call it. Like, Troy, you and I have talked about this a lot. Like just kind of really going for it and really being emotional, but maybe not caring if you're hitting the pitch too much. It's way worse on the demo version though.
I think it's bad in a way that serves the song though. Not like it.
Yes.
If it was good, it wouldn't be good. Maybe
Yeah.
or as good, like it's part of the character of the song, and I think that's what this album has a lot of. Is we'll call it character.
Yeah,
It's
I
not,
would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Everything's not tempoed and locked into place.
Yeah, what I push back on sometimes with this album is not like that the performances are bad or anything. Like that character that you're talking about, I think is totally that stuff is cool. I like a lot of bands that play a lot worse than the Killing Tree does. To me, it's more like I get a little bit lost in the structures and the sort of. It feels like there aren't enough like super interesting parts to me. But yeah, I like the like kind of like you said, I like the vocals that are trying a little too hard and not quite hitting, and that it's clearly a like I said, it's not all locked in together to a grid like all modern metalcore is. That stuff is good.
Yeah. They're speaking of kind of human things that show up in these songs. I really love the weird kind of sloppy guitar solo thing that happens before the last chorus. I had maybe not noticed that much before, but like on recent listens, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool as hell. It sounds like Todd has no idea what he's doing, but it also totally works. Yeah, the kind of big like bridgy parts with the Drag Me Down Now and the Become My Enemy, where it's just like super super heavy. Like I that gets me every time, honestly.
And I think part of the sound too on this is I'm pretty sure this was recorded to tape, So that's also why nothing's locked in place. And I'm sure they were like, that take is good enough.
Yeah.
Well, they talked about doing this like on like overnights because the studio was at like, next to other businesses where they couldn't record during the day, and doing it super fast because they didn't have any money, and as cheap as they could. And so like, yeah, it makes sense that you got to go with like the take you can get. You can't spend forever locking in your the best take of drums or whatever.
Yeah. This would have been at the old Atlas too, right?
Yeah, they said in one of the interviews I read that it is now a Korean taco place.
Yeah, that tracks.
Or, I mean, that was probably in like 2012, and now it's probably like an extremely fancy, tapas place or something.
It's condos.
Almost assuredly. Yeah. I have a lot of love for Atlas in my heart. They've cranked out some of my favorite albums, this being one of them, obviously. But anyway, after that, we've got Soundtrack to a Failing Relationship, the only instrumental track on this album. I don't have a ton to say about this one, except that it is kind of wild that they did this when post-rock was not yet at the height of its powers, which would have been like 2004 to like 2009. This song, this doesn't do a ton for me, honestly, but I think it's kind of a nice palate cleanser in the middle of this album. Troy, we've kind of talked over the course of this series about In Rise Against's career, them trying to balance out albums by putting like very like opposite vibe songs into the record, as opposed to like, not smoothing things out over the course of a given song, but like instead of balancing it out within the songs themselves. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening here too. I don't know if you got that impression.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it is supposed to be a palate cleanser of sorts from the chaos and intensity of the rest of the album, although it gets intense by the end. The thing that this made me think of was you remember that when we were in the B-sides of the Thursday series, there was a track that they left off of Full Collapse where they said we tried to write a Mogwai song and it sucked.
Yes, that's right.
This reminded me of that, except it's actually like a pretty good post-rock jam, I think.
Yeah, no, this would hang with some like This Will Destroy You in my mind, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you said post-rock wasn't like at its height, but I think everybody who was cool was already listening to post-rock at the time. I mean, I feel like you find that in all the punks just want to play, shoegaze and post-rock.
Yeah, I suppose. We just that didn't manifest itself 100% until a little later in our collective lives.
The skill wasn't there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Although
we didn't have enough Sun amps.
Matt, you have the vinyl of this then, right? Is that the last track on side A?
I think it might be the first track on side B. I'm going to go check real quick. It's like right behind me, but out of reach. One sec.
Discogs will also tell me. Yeah, it's the last song on side A, according to Discogs.
I mean, that makes sense, too. You want to put, like, the mellowest track on the inside of your record.
Yeah. Although, I mean, to
not
be
that
fair,
it really matters, but...
Right, but by the end of the track, it's not mellow at all anymore,
that's true.
Which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crescendo core post-rock. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it should be the end of side A, though.
Yeah. Or like a nice ear break, and your ears are getting pounded, you get a nice little reprieve, and then you're back into it.
Definitely.
Yeah, it doesn't take that long to get back into it.
Yeah.
All right. So after that little palate cleanser, we get into Violets Are Blue, which we've already briefly touched on, but we have the final studio version here, which it slides really smoothly right out of Soundtrack to a Failing Relationship, which I haven't put the vinyl on in a little bit, which I really should have done in preparation for this episode, but I don't know how that transition works on the vinyl. I assume it just doesn't exist if Violets Are Blue is the first thing on side B. But
hopefully there's just a voice that comes on and says, "Turn record over."
This is noise.
God. That would be fun if they just like slid that one in there. But yeah, I honestly kind of love the transition that happens there. Obviously it doesn't work if you're trying to play this on its own, say on like a radio show, which I might have tried to do at some point in college. I probably shouldn't have. I'm pretty sure they swear several times on this song. It's fine. It was probably safe harbor time. Don't worry about it. Dave Park, if you're listening, I never did that. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the weird structure of this song. Like we get basically a bridge like a minute and a half in. We also have panic chords on this song, which I know like is a weird phrase to use at this point, because I don't think people started calling them panic chords until like the 2010s. But it's just a minor second. Don't get mad at me. I know what it actually is. Yeah, I don't know. I think this song kind of rules. This also feels like very explicitly like an anti-suicide song to me. You know, kind of going on my theory that like this whole album is kind of about inner turmoil and how we deal with it. This feels the most like explicitly like I want to turn myself around from this type song, but again, could be a reading too much into it type thing.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that like kind of call to action thing that Tim does in Rise Against, obviously many times over.
Yes, definitely.
Also, it's so, I guess because this is the first song on the demo, this is also kind of the first Killing Tree song I was thinking about. I didn't even know if I said this. I had never heard this band or this album before, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, sorry.
But,
I think I accidentally assumed that everybody knew that before we got into things.
Yeah, this was, I was aware of this band and thought that the idea of them sounded cool, but for whatever reason, I just never checked out the album. Regardless, so this was kind of the first Killing Tree song I was thinking about, and I was just like, it's such a, like, the fact that this was a side project and was just like a kind of grew out of like basement jams while these guys were in other bands makes so much sense, because these songs have no like, there's no rules to them. It's like, what if we did this and this and this and this other thing and this thing too, and we put them all in one song? And this song is kind of the most emblematic of that, down to like the just like this like endless breakdown of this look away from the broken mirror that then they just throw like a fuck you in the middle of it, which is kind of a really fun part of the song. But yeah, it's got the energy of a band that doesn't have an editor and doesn't have to answer to anyone.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't pay Matt to produce it, just to engineer and mix it. So
exactly. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, like that is definitely a vibe that I have noticed, is just like, oh yeah, like this is a band that is doing what they want to do, and they are not going to listen to anybody who tells them otherwise, if there is anybody telling them otherwise, which I kind of doubt there was.
Yeah, I mean, why would there be?
Yeah. Also, that to that point, I feel like this album has more fuck yous per capita than most other albums I've ever listened to.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's some like East Coast hardcore that probably eclipses it.
Probably. I'm not
or
as
maybe
into
even
the
like
ignorant
the
stuff,
Bad Religion song "Fuck You."
Okay, yeah, sure.
Or, CeeLo Green.
All right, fine. I actually genuinely forgot about that song until just now.
That's the radio edit.
Yeah, I've mostly heard that one because I've mostly heard it at weddings and stuff.
Did he get canceled?
Yes.
I think he did.
He is not a good person.
Yeah.
It's real unfortunate.
Let's see. Is there a controversy section on his Wikipedia page? I'm almost certain that there will be. Yep, controversies, plural.
Hey, it is.
That's a full 4-paragraph essay. I'm not going to read it live.
We are not going to get
read
into
it
that.
Note for note. Yep.
Everybody just know that we don't condone anything CeeLo Green has ever done.
Sorry,
including
I have to read.
song.
I have to read
including his music.
I have to read one sentence from this because it's too funny to not.
Okay, all right.
Okay, on December 31st, 2011, CeeLo Green sang John Lennon's "Imagine" at the ball drop ceremony for New Year's Eve in Times Square. In his rendition, he replaced the line "and no religion too" with the words "and all religions true."
Oh, sure, I guess.
Helen.
All right. Well, all right.
Okay. Sorry for that digression.
No, that was very funny. I can't believe that. I mean, I can believe that, but it's stupid.
Yeah. The other stuff in here is very bad.
Yeah. Anything else on Violets Are Blue before we move on?
With a less seamless transition than is actually on the album, because that's one of the cooler parts of the record, I think, is this like applause break that turns into a clap part for the beginning of The Perfect.
I love it so much.
Yeah, it's such a departure, like that intro, from everything else on this album.
Yeah, that was definitely like this is definitely an idea that were they paying Matt Allison to produce this album, he probably would have gone, hey, you know how this album is like incredibly depressing and also features like real life audio diary stuff? Why are we doing this one? Why is there a party? What's going on? But I'm glad it made it in because I love that, like that weird like party into clapping into the song. It rules.
Yeah,
It like makes no sense, but it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is in the interviews. One of the who I was reading the interview with, where it was Tim or Jeff or someone, but basically they said like, we had no time to make this record, and yet we still spent altogether too much of it getting those claps exactly right.
Good. I appreciate that. Good job, everybody.
Yeah,
the priorities were straight.
This song also has a lot of different like textural elements to it. I think there's some acoustic guitar in it, maybe the only time on the album that it's there. A lot of like, I think this is one of the spots where the kind of back and forth vocal thing works really, really well, along with on Them's Fighting Words. I think a lot of cool elements to this song.
Yeah, there's that one tiny bit of piano in this song too, well before Rise Against ever did it. Like it's literally like four notes, I think. The like da-na-na-na. Like one of the iterations of that is just like a single note piano thing.
Yeah, I think I didn't know if that was a piano or a clean guitar or something, but it's definitely a different sound than they're usually doing.
Yeah, for sure. This song does finish with a fade out. Sorry, Troy.
Yeah, they get one, I guess. I can forgive them.
It's allowed one time. But yeah, speaking of other fun intros, Counting to Infinity is next. And it just, 1 2 3 4 1 2 drum fill is one of my favorite ways to start a song, personally.
Yeah, it's more of that like raw, like this is band practice. Go.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like honestly, it could have been one of those situations where like it wasn't supposed to be on tape, but they just kind of left it in, or like that was the good drum take, and they were just like, all right, cool, that's part of the song now.
Yeah, just something from the scratch tracks or something, or
yeah, because like it would obviously turn out that way the way drums are mic'd, but like the distance of the vocals tells me that it was like maybe off the cuff. But yeah, kind of speaking of different textures, I for some reason until embarrassingly recently thought that like the guitar swells that are happening in this song were like actually just somebody who only kind of knows how to play violin playing violin. Don't know why that was. Maybe it's because I had crappy headphones back in the day. But that is something that I noticed on this round a little more than and like I think at some point I was like, oh yeah, that's a guitar. But like this time I was like, how did I ever think this wasn't a guitar? Like it's clearly somebody using like one of those volume pedals. Yeah, I don't know. This is another one where like Tim's vocals are like really like rough sounding, and like I mean that in like the sense that there are like less aggressive vocal parts here, where we've just kind of got like it sounds like he is like struggling to like get the words out, and again, like I feel like in the context of these songs that really works effectively. But yeah, I don't know. What do y'all think?
Yeah, he gets the desperation of the song across really well. This is also the one where all the fuck yous are at the end. Yes. That
sure is.
It's weird they didn't put him in the liner notes.
Yeah. I've gotten burned by that before. I remember accidentally playing Platypus by Green Day on the radio once because I wasn't thinking that hard about that song. And I looked up the lyrics, both I think online and in the liner notes, and the swears are not in those for some reason. Even though the entire back half of that song is basically a Blink-182 song.
I was like, unrelated. Did you ever see like the footage Blink-182 played on like MTV or something, and they played Family Reunion, and it's just a bunch of beeps?
Yes, yeah, that's so fucking funny.
Isn't the like Walmart edited version of Happy Holidays, You Bastard, is just an instrumental?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
We probably talked about that on our long digression about radio edits or like Walmart edited versions on the Suffer the Witness episode.
I believe we did, in fact, talk about that specific song on there. Kyle, you said you found that on, like, it was on Spotify, right? Like, they have the edited version hanging around?
No. Well, kind of. The only song that's edited is the last song. Is it Savior? Or
Survive.
Survive, yeah. Or whatever album, yeah. The last song is the only one that's edited. Because it was, like, the sing... I think...
Yeah. I think that's right, because I think there's not a lot of swearing on that album, is there? Like, less than most Rise Against albums?
Less than most Rise Against albums, I would say.
But that's the only one that's edited.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Oddly. Otherwise, the versions are the same.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. At least on Spotify.
Yeah, I'll have to check Tidal, because, like, every once in a while I'll, like, go to an album and it's like, here's 5 other versions of this album, and I don't know what any of them are, except one of them might be the clean version. Yeah, anything else on the perfect before, or sorry, not the perfect, Jesus, Counting to Infinity before we move on to the closer?
I don't think so.
No, I'm good.
All right. So yeah, this album closes out with Cacophony, parentheses, The Death of Affection, the first in what will eventually be a long line of parenthetical songs. Yeah, this track starts off with another, like, big bell hit. I don't know. I think there's a lot of cool things in this song, and I think it works pretty effectively as a closer, especially since we, close out with one more of the audio diary snippets, and then this that kind of weird plunky melody that I assume comes from the actual Romance of Helen Trent. But one thing I did notice, or get reminded of on this listen, is there's that really weird, like, big vocal reverb situation the last time that Tim sings Breathe Life in the middle of the song. And I don't really know why it's there, but I think it's kind of funny.
Just a way to, like, underscore that part.
Totally. Yeah, what do y'all think here?
So a couple things about this song. One, Start a War is a great mosh call.
Yes, it is.
But they left the audio diary samples kind of out on the second half of the album. I think this is the only song that has them after the instrumental. So I don't know if they just didn't have too many that they really felt comfortable putting on or what it was, but I was glad when those came back on this song. But the other thing is they do the extended outro that kind of gradually slows down, which is sort of a trick they did on, was it the Bronze from the demo?
Yes.
That is, obviously they didn't put that song on the album, but I think I imagine that idea was cool enough to put into the closer here.
Yeah, definitely. I think I mentioned that about Pillow Talk, but yeah, that definitely has a parallel here from the Bronze, which I really appreciate. It's since you bring up the Start a War part, I've always kind of wanted, after the first Start a War, for things to go a little harder, but I think it would otherwise, like, overshadow when it, like, comes back, like, 10-15 seconds later and then goes into, like, the big instrumental part.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the other thing I like is it's just not a song that really has a lot of closure, because it's not an album that has a lot of closure. And especially the final sample is kind of the same way. It just is well, I'll see you around, and it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of, like, the emotional issues of the album have been resolved in any way, which I think is a good place to end an album that is this kind of chaotic and delving deep into that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Kyle, you got anything on this one?
Just that Start a War is, like, the best part of the song.
Definitely. I hard agree on that one. I would come out of Mosh retirement if they played a show and played that song.
Yeah, I would fly to wherever that show is happening. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of the album. We do have an EP that follows this, as well as one last track, which we'll get to a little later. I don't know if we want to, like, necessarily just hit highlights or what we want to do with We Sing Sin. What do you think, Troy?
Let's just hit highlights on it, kind of hit it over as, like, broadly, I think. I guess this is just a concept album about it's just sort of a both a kind of breakup album and also kind of getting into more biblical imagery and sometimes explicitly about Christianity, I think, depending on the song. I think this is about on par with the album for me in terms of how much I like it. I think it's got a lot of cool stuff going on, a lot of cool ideas, and then the songs drag on a while and I lose interest in it a little bit.
That's fair. Yeah, I feel like this is like in ways a refinement of what happens on The Romance of Helen, Trent. I think the songs are maybe a little tidier, at least sonically. Not necessarily in terms of length, as you've kind of already alluded to, but like we do have this like kind of similar to how the how the album had the audio diaries. We kind of have this recurring riff that like ultimately ends up opening and like repeating through Look Alive, but we have it at the end of Everything You Had Is Gone, and then we have it reversed on the end of We Have Awakened, which I think is kind of cool. It sounds a little out of place on the first time it comes up, but then like as it starts to build itself as a theme, I feel like I appreciate it a lot more. I think big highlight for me, honestly, this cover of Jesus Christ Pose by Soundgarden in the middle of the EP. I love that cover so much. Like I really think that like Tim's like really raw, desperate vocals do a really great service to that song. And like obviously no shade to Chris Cornell. He's an incredible singer, but like I feel like it brings something kind of fresh to that song.
Here's something funny. We're gonna actually disagree on something. That's my least favorite part of this EP.
Okay,
Same.
wow.
Maybe just because it's a cover.
All right.
I don't know, and I'm not like a big Soundgarden fan either. But it
So-
just seems out of place to me.
Right there with you, Kyle. I'm not a big Soundgarden guy, and I was like, I didn't occur to me at first that this was a cover, and I was like, oh, I saw who wrote it, and I was like, okay, it makes sense. But like, the nothing about the tone or the style of really any part of this song feels of a piece with the rest of the Killing Tree.
Yeah,
I'll give you
it's
that.
out there. And I didn't know, like, the first few times I heard it either, that it was a cover, and it was still my least favorite.
That's fair. Yeah, I definitely did not know going in that it was a cover. In fact, I think it was a pretty long time before I found that out. But yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from though. Like it does stand out in that it's definitely not like of a piece with the rest of the catalog. But I think it's fun. But I do think like the rest of the EP like does, it outshine it in terms of, sounding like the Killing Tree at very least.
Is it a really hot take to say that I think Look Alive is my favorite Killing Tree song?
No, I think it's a really good song and a really good closer to this EP. That's I think a valid opinion to hold.
Maybe I like it because it's a little more optimistic than anything else that they do. I don't know. I think that the some of the more screamo elements of that song appeal to me, and it feels like the kind of pianos become the teeth, a lot of dispute. The kind of wave bands took some cues from this type of thing, or at least they're calling back to the same influences. I don't know. I just think that's everything that they were doing on The Romance of Helen, Trent feels like it's building up to a song like that for me, and that's where it really works.
Yeah, I honestly would totally agree. I think it's a pretty stellar like kind of culmination of everything they'd done before, and the fact that it is like very like probably more heavily influenced by screamo than most of their other songs. Like obviously does a lot for me as a person who's very into that kind of music.
Yeah,
Would you say it's less metalcore this time around?
Exactly.
I think so.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Nobody knows what they're talking about. We're just yapping here.
That's the plan. Yeah. So this came after Romance of Helen, Trent.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
it was the next year. Yeah.
Year later.
That's just weird. Like production wise and like tone wise, I feel like it sounds like it should have came first. It doesn't all mesh for me like sonically as well as the album.
Okay, I think that's fair. I don't know who the personnel on this one was because I have lost.
I think
the
it's
booklet
the
for
same
it
thing. I
somehow.
think they just did it at Atlas with Matt Allison.
Okay, that checks out.
Yeah, I thought it sounded a little bit better mix-wise, but again, I'm hearing this stuff for kind of the first time and haven't lived with it for decades.
Yeah, I'll admit that like I haven't hung with this nearly as much as I have the full length, but I do still really like it. It is notable, especially for the purposes of this podcast, that we're having a little bit of a full circle moment right now because this was released on Eyeball Records, much like the first Thursday album.
Oh. And much like the next album that we're gonna cover on this show.
Oh yeah, right. Dang, we're doing great here. There's an arc to this podcast. Apparently,
is there like a sponsorship coming up that no one knows about yet?
No, we're just doing MCR next.
Oh hey,
anyway,
I saw Frank on Saturday.
Yeah, I was gonna say you just did sound for LS Dunes.
Just some monitors, yeah.
I mean, that's still pretty cool. The LS dudes, if you will.
Yeah.
That new LS Dunes record is really good. I think it's a lot better than the first one.
Oh, it's so much better than the first one. I like it a lot. I don't know if it'll make my top 10 at the end of the year or maybe even the middle of the year, but it's still really good.
It's funny, out of like all of those dudes, except for the Thursday dudes, like that's the albums that like I like the most that those guys have put out is the LS Dunes stuff.
That checks out, honestly. Like I feel like Circa Survive is like a very like specific thing that you have to really be into to enjoy, and like Anthony Green brings a specific thing to any band he's in, which is his voice specifically.
Have I told my Anthony Green story on this podcast yet?
I don't think you have.
Matt, do you know my Anthony Green story?
I don't know that I do.
Okay. I went to see Circa Survive, or was it Circa? Yeah, it was Circa, minus the Bear was opening, with one of my friends in college who was obsessed with Circa Survive, just one of the biggest Anthony Green fans I've ever met. So he was like, we got to get there early, we're going to be in the front row. I was like, okay, cool, well, I'm fine with that. We're up in the front row, Circa Survive starts, Anthony Green walks down to the front of the stage and starts sticking his fingers in every single person's mouth.
Yeah, nope, I have heard this story.
I didn't know what, I was like so shocked that I'm just kind of standing there literally with my mouth kind of hanging open. Then he walks over and of course sticks his fingers right in my mouth. It's like, it's so weird. And I turned to my friend Derek and he was just like, that was amazing.
I hate that so much.
I do not like it.
And you shouldn't. Nobody should.
Yeah.
I know it's a different world now, but like even back then, I would have been weirded out by that.
I mean, they were great. I am not the biggest fan of Anthony Green's voice, but I think when it works, it's really, really good, like those early Circa records, and then I get tired of it. But that's another long digression to another band.
Yeah, that's fair. But anyway, we have one more song to talk about, which is Dressed to Fuck, which appeared on Hair Chicago Punk Cuts. I forget the name of the label that put that out.
Thick. Was it Thick Records?
Yeah, it was Thick Records.
Yeah.
Yeah, they also put out a comp called Oil, which made sense with their label name.
Well, no, Rise Against was on that, and I think that was recorded in like an old oil refinery or something. Like every song on that was recorded in that space.
Yes, yeah, which was very cool. I don't know if
That's
there was
a
a similar conceit to this one or not.
I
That's
can't
a
remember
cool
what
premise.
Rise Against song it was. It was...
I know we talked about it, but I can't remember either.
Is that?
I think it exists on the re-release of The Unraveling.
It's either Generation Lost or actually I think it's what's the song that is?
Oh, it's Gethsemane or Gethsemane.
Yes.
Gethsemane. Okay.
Yeah, I can say that word totally.
I'm gonna be honest.
I
knew it was that the whole time. I just didn't want to say the name because I've never said it before.
That's fair, man. I get that.
So I was
I was a
dumb
church
'cause
kid.
I
I've
am.
heard and said the word Gethsemane many times.
Yeah, it's a well-established fact that any hard word that comes from the Bible is not something I'm going to be able to do. But yeah, I have no idea if Hair had a similar situation, if they recorded these songs at a barber shop or anything. But anyway, the Killing Tree has a song called Dressed to Fuck on here, and it once again features Emily Chambra from Holy Roman Empire and Long Distance Runner, which I think is a very welcome addition to the band here.
Yeah, and then Jeff went on to be in Holy Roman Empire.
That's right, yeah. Great band, man.
And Matt Allison produced that.
Yeah.
And I think Neil Hennessy engineered it. And that record sounds great, Neil. Forgive me. That one sounds really good.
That one sounds really good, Neil. We love you a whole lot, Neil. I promise we're not gonna harsh on you ever again. Yeah. So a thing that I had always noticed, but never had brought to the foreground of my consciousness while listening to this song, is that there are a lot of, or there's, I guess, specifically one vocal melody / rhythm idea that just got straight up ported to drones on Sufferer and the Witness, which I find very funny. This actually almost kind of sounds like a Rise Against song in some ways, just with the way that Tim's voice had kind of changed since their previous recordings. But I will say obviously it doesn't sound that much like a Rise Against song, because my first note on this is Glassjaw ass opening riff, which it is. It sounds a lot like the opening to oh my god, I can't remember the name of the one big Glassjaw song on Worship and Tribute. It's fine, somebody will figure it out. Anyway, what do y'all think of this concluding thing for them?
You covered literally everything in my notes, which was, this is their most Rise Against song. This song rules, and where was this from? Because I didn't know if it was a leftover song from the sessions of the We Sing Sin EP or whatever. But I'm looking at the liner notes for this on Discogs, and it was much like that oil compilation you were talking about, Kyle. This was recorded. All of these were recorded at the Argyle Room, which I assume was a barbershop.
That's dope. I love that.
That's awesome. They need to bring that back.
Yeah.
Not the barbershop, just that comp situation.
Yeah, I honestly I gotta say, I love a compilation that has a consistent theme, especially if everything was recorded in the same place. That's a good shit for me right there.
Yeah.
I will say, Troy, you kind of mentioned that Look Alive feels a lot more hopeful than a lot of the rest of the discography, and I kind of felt that way about this song, and I find it kind of nice that it's what caps off their entire career as a band, assuming they never come back, which at this point I'm guessing is not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 20 years. I kind of also would be very surprised to ever hear anything from them again. I was trying to think if there's been another band like that that's kind of gone out on a random one-off song like this.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't have a good one. I just am throwing that out there.
No, I'm trying to think too, and I don't think I have one. Listeners, if you have a cool one, let us know. You also don't have to. It's fine. All right. Well, that's The Killing Tree, the entire discography of The Killing Tree. Troy, thank you for going on this journey with us. Kyle, thank you for already liking this album.
Yeah, made it easy.
I really love this album, and I kind of love everything The Killing Tree put out, as has been evidenced in this episode. And someday, I was talking to Jake, bassist for The Long Way Home, also famously had La Dispute perform in his basement several times. That
guy.
Yeah.
La Dispute guy. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, the La Dispute guy. No.
The guy with the basement.
He had asked me what some cover sets I would want to do for Halloween shows are, and for some reason this band didn't occur to me, but I would absolutely fuck up a cover set of just Killing Tree songs.
Hell yeah.
So just putting it out into the world. If anybody else wants to do that for some Halloween, let me know. I'll do literally anything. Guitar, vocals, drums, I don't care.
I would love to see you do vocals on this.
Oh god, I would die, but it would be great.
I would come see that.
Any concluding thoughts from either of y'all before we move on to anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I really, I obviously didn't love this album, but I liked sort of digging into a band that I had not heard before that was obviously very related to bands that I love. That stuff's always cool.
Hell yeah. Anything else from you, Kyle? Anything we didn't touch on?
I don't think so. Yeah, no, definitely just a good nostalgia trip. Makes me think of driving my car to the skate park when I first got this album, and just blasting it with the windows down.
Man, every once in a while I get the itch to make a playlist of like songs I would like to skate to, even though I can't skate anymore. At least not well. I was never able to skate well. I don't know who I'm trying to kid here. Troy has witnessed this. You've witnessed this. But I get really sad that I can't add anything from this band that was on The Romance of Helen, Trent, because a lot of those songs would be great for skating too.
Yeah, I would listen to this album a lot more if that was the case as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I own it, but you know,
you're not bringing your Walkman CD player with you in your pocket anymore to the skate park.
Yeah, no, in my like 3-foot wide CD case.
I have both of mine sitting at my feet
CDs.
still.
Yeah, it's down on the ground right now because I pulled out the liner notes for this album.
Hell yeah.
So we could email the band.
All right. Yeah, everybody, if you want to hear more from The Killing Tree, that is once again tossmysalad _ at hotmail.com. The hotmail.com is how you know it's still active. All right. Well, Kyle, I don't think I asked you to prep anything, but usually at the end of these episodes, we do recommendations for just any media or experience that you might want people to have. So
okay.
Do you have anything that you want to recommend to folks listening to this podcast that they may not have heard before, read before, seen before?
Yeah, I got something. It's from the future. I recommend everybody go to the Downtown Struts reunion concert at Sleeping Village, October 10th, 2025.
Hell yeah.
I'll be there.
I'll also be there. It's going to be a banger
all the way
show.
from San Diego.
I didn't know that was happening.
I am not going to Best Friends Forever Fest because I want to go to this show. Also because I have to be in Vegas later in October and I don't want to go twice. But yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, banger lineup, Downtown Struts, Typesetter, Bradley Palermo, and one other band.
I'm looking at the flyer.
The
Sky We Scrape.
Yeah, the Sky We Scrape.
Band that got really mad at me on the internet once.
Sick.
Oh my god. That's
They sent me a vinyl, like physical vinyl record of their album to review when I was writing reviews for a blog, and I gave it a negative review, and they were like, "Fuck you, we sent you a record. Why would you do that?"
because
of
sucks.
Journalistic integrity.
It wasn't very good. Sorry, dudes.
Oh, I
remember
never knew that. That's so funny.
Bring it back to the Downtown Struts, the EP I recorded for them. I think some magazine had their EP to review, and they got a really bad review because I think a member in the band slept with like that dude's girlfriend or something. It's a hilarious like review. I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't even know if it still exists on the internet, but if you can find it, Sail the Seas Dry EP review from someone.
I'm going to have to hunt that down. I had forgotten about that.
I don't know if the sleeping with the girlfriend part is what happened, but, you know.
Yeah, you know. What you got this week, Troy?
Because I may be probably going to see Elway tomorrow, I'm going to recommend is it the second Elway album? The one that I really like. It is called Leave Taking. This is just a super solid, straight up pop punk album. If you like the Menzingers, if you like really any band in that realm, you'll dig this. I was really into this album when it came out in 2013. Kind of forgot about this band for a while and just heard a new song that I really liked and am getting way back into them this week. So check that out. Particularly the song Prophet's Town is an absolute jam.
Nice. Yeah, Elway rules. I still need to buy a ticket to that show, but I will do that later tonight so that I can go. Cool. My recommendation is a collection of poetry that I am not yet finished reading, but I am digging it a lot so far, and it is also relevant to this podcast because it is Application for Release from the Dream by Tony Hoagland. You may recognize that name from it being the only Thursday song we had post hiatus at the end of our Thursday series. It's a really good collection. Tony Hoagland does a really great job of kind of illuminating the everyday, which is a thing that I am very, very interested in, both in terms of like music and poetry and other kind of mediums of expression. It's not a very long book. I just don't have a very long attention span, so I read a couple poems and then just like go off and do something else. But I'm like halfway through and I'm really digging it, so I don't imagine it's going to take a hard turn for the worse at any point. But yeah, that's it for this week. Kyle, do you have anything you want to plug aside from the Downtown Struts show that you're not playing but going to?
No, I'm not really working on anything. I guess if you're in a band that wants a recording engineer, reach out. I'm cheap.
It's true. But also Kyle's really good. I should mention maybe explicitly. It kind of came up sideways. Kyle does sound at both the Music Box in San Diego, not the one in Chicago. That would be weird. They don't really have a sound person. And also at Winston's in Ocean Beach, San Diego. Hence the LS Dune thing earlier. They played the Music Box recently. Cool. Well, we are going to be continuing next week with another series. As we mentioned last time, we're going to be covering New Jersey band My Chemical Romance. Once again, returning to the Dan Ozzie tome of Sellout for some reference. So if y'all aren't already reading that book, I guess we can solidly recommend that one too. But yeah, find us online at noisefloorpodcast.com or on Instagram at noisefloorpod. And yeah, we'll see you all next week for MCR. See ya.
Later.